Martin, tonight Indigenous groups come together protesting the removal of trees and green space amid construction of the Eglinton Crosstown LRT.
We're asking them to return to the table with an Indigenous-led community coalition to give us an actual opportunity to have input into the design of this project.
We'll take you to the demonstration, plus get reaction from Metrolinx.
In this Christmas time, of course, you think about your back home, about your husband. It's a pain deep in the heart.
We're with Ukrainian refugees in Ontario marking Orthodox Christmas, the first since Russia invaded their home country last February.
Seeing it in person is such a great feeling. It's like a dream come true.
We'll introduce you to the 23-year-old Anishinaabe artist behind the practice jerseys being worn by the Leafs tonight at their Indigenous celebration game.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. We'll have more on those stories in a moment, but we want to begin with some developing news tonight out of Hamilton. A downtown mosque was evacuated yesterday after police received a tip about a potential bomb threat. The president of the mosque has just gotten off the phone with one of our producers, saying it happened after Friday prayer when there were about 400 people inside. The police chief arrived and asked everyone to leave. Now, police and the bomb squad checked the building. No bomb was found. Police are still investigating. We've reached out to Hamilton Police. The mosque believes that there haven't been any arrests just yet. Now, the Ibrahim Jammeh Mosque posted a statement earlier today saying, "We appreciate the swift action of Hamilton Police to ensure that our congregation was safe." It goes on to say, at this time, however, we are urging our community not to speculate and to allow the investigation to unfold. We've also heard from the mayor of Hamilton, Andrea Horvath. She's released a statement this afternoon saying she was absolutely horrified to learn about the bomb threat. She says, as a mayor, it is top priority to take on systematic racism, hatred, and discrimination in all forms, and to work with community leaders to make Hamilton the safe and welcoming community that everyone deserves. Now, there is still much more to come on that story. Our web team is working on it. You can find out more on cbc.ca/Toronto. Meantime, Indigenous groups gathering to protest the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Construction of the Metrolinx project is well underway, but tonight demonstrators say they're concerned about the removal of trees and green space. As Meg Roberts shows us, they're calling for a meeting with the transit agency.
It's your job to care, so why aren't you?
Today, Indigenous groups and community members in the Weston area gathered for the first time to protest part of the Eglinton Crosstown West extension. And the group says this may be just the beginning. The West extension is expected to run mostly underground. However, an elevated section is projected to run 1.5 kilometers between Scarlett Road and Jane Street.
We are on a mission to have them go underground.
Indigenous groups say removal of thousands of trees, disruption to the ecosystem, and recreationally used green space will cause irreparable damage. They've brought their concerns to Metrolinx over the past year, but as work on the West Extension has already begun, they're now demanding Metrolinx pause and meet with them.
We are asking them to return to the table with an Indigenous-led community coalition to give us an actual opportunity to have input into the design of this project, not just the restoration phase.
In July of 2022, the City of Toronto also asked the Provincial Transit Agency to consider bringing the elevated section underground. But Metrolinx said at the time the current design is the most cost-effective option. In a statement, Metrolinx told CBC News the proposed area is in floodplain zone that has experienced flooding over the years, which would possess unique challenges to build underground. It said overall, our practice is to plant more trees than we remove. MPP for York South Weston says the government has been and will continue to engage and consult with communities about the project.
We're going to fight for, what we feel, what's right, and we just want to prove to Metrolinx that, this is what we believe in.
The groups protesting today say they look forward to improved transportation, but not at the expense of their green space. Agnagbi Indigenous Group says that if construction starts in the area without consultation from the group, there will be discussions about a blockade. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, the province's plan to open up the Greenbelt could come under police investigation. The OPP says its anti-rackets branch is reviewing information after receiving complaints, working to determine if there's enough evidence to support an actual investigation. Both Premier Doug Ford and his housing minister have said the government did not tip off developers ahead of announcing the plan. The government announced its Greenbelt proposal back in November after previously pledging to not touch the lands. The province says the development will help reach its target of building 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years. One person is dead after an encampment fire in downtown Toronto. Police say around 6 this morning, they received multiple reports of a cell tower on fire. Emergency crews put out the flames. That's when they found the encampment. Toronto Fire says one person was found dead, and it appears the victim was living underneath the tower. Toronto Fire, the Office of the Fire Marshal, and Toronto Police are all investigating. Ukrainian refugees in Canada are marking their first Orthodox Christmas since Russia's invasion. Many gathering today at Ukrainian churches and cultural centers to be with other refugees and their Canadian supporters. Ethel Musa takes us to an event in Oakville.
Orthodox Christians around the world are marking Christmas today. It's normally a joyous time, but for many Ukrainian refugees in Canada, it is overshadowed by a war raging back home.
All those people in Ukraine are now in the war. They don't have this safety like I have here in Canada. They struggle, they don't have normal life, and it's most difficult to understand that.
Russia called for a temporary ceasefire to allow followers to observe Orthodox Christmas. Ukraine rejected it, warning that Moscow might use the time to rearm and reinforce its troops. The truce appears to have had little effect, with reports of exchanges of artillery fire in eastern Ukraine.
On February 24th, 2022, the ungodly and diabolical war of the Russian Federation against the long-suffering mother country, Ukraine, began.
For those who have left loved ones behind, the war is especially hard to forget. Natalia Zhimovka and her 5 children now call Canada home, but her husband remains in Ukraine, fighting on the front lines.
I'm happy here because I know my children are safety and they have everything what they need. In this Christmas time, of course, you think about your back home, about your husband. It's a pain deep in the heart.
Taking that pain away, says this volunteer with Oakville, Ontario's St. Volodymyr Cultural Centre, was important this holiday, even if it was just for a little while.
We were able to have over 200 newcomers attend our cultural center here. St. Nicholas or Sviatei Mykolai was there to greet the children. And it was a wonderful time where for a brief period we were able to think about other things and more joyful things together.
Many parishioners at today's Orthodox Christmas service say they hope for peace this coming year and an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Ethel Musa, CBC News, Oakville, Ontario.
In other news tonight, an official with Global Affairs Canada says 2 airports in western Mexico have reopened after being shut down amid an explosion of violence, but it is unclear when flights to Canada will resume. Several Canadian tourists were barricaded in their hotels after the outbreak of violence sparked by the arrest of an alleged cartel leader earlier this week. Gang members carried out running attacks with authorities that forced the shutdown of airports and tourist shuttle buses. With the airports reopening, Global Affairs is advising Canadian tourists to check with their airlines about flights home. Ottawa continues to advise Canadians to avoid non-essential travel to the region. Well, for more, CBC spoke earlier with a former Foreign Affairs Minister of Mexico. He's now a professor in New York. We asked him how significant this arrest is.
The significance is real for two reasons. And firstly, because the same individual, Ovidio Guzman, Chapo Guzman's son, or one of his sons, they attempted to arrest him in 2019. They caught him, and then the army was forced to release him because the enormous amount of supporters he has, armed supporters, sicarios, in Culiacan particularly, took the streets, took the city practically, and threatened to kill a number of people in the army barracks. And so President López Obrador had to free him. So this capture puts an end to that humiliation. And in that sense, that's a strong win for López Obrador. Secondly, as I'm sure your viewers know, Prime Minister Trudeau and President Biden will be in Mexico City on Monday and Tuesday for the trilateral summit of North American leaders that takes place every year. And this allows President López Obrador to meet with his two colleagues and, let's say, not accept their possible criticism that he's not doing enough to control drug trafficking, particularly in fentanyl, to the United States. So in that sense, it's a very important capture. Now, in the sense of whether this will bring an end to violence in Mexico, the drug trafficking from Mexico to the United States, fentanyl in particular, etc. No, we've seen many captures, dozens of captures of kingpins over the past 30 or 40 years. And not only does the violence not subside, but if anything, it gets worse.
Meantime, troubles continue for Sunwing Airlines. There's been stranded passengers, missing baggage, and most recently, all flights out of Saskatchewan flat out canceled this month. That latest move has now put an Ontario couple's destination wedding plans in limbo. Sarah Jabakanji has their story.
The light at the end of the tunnel was once all this is over, we're able to get our friends and family all together and meet up for a holiday and finally celebrate that we've been waiting to get married since the beginning of the pandemic. And yeah, Sunwing is it's just like, they don't want that to happen.
Ashley Perry and her fiancé have been waiting to get married since the beginning of the pandemic. Both correctional officers, she says working through COVID has been tough.
The first year of the pandemic, my father passed away suddenly. He was my best friend. And my whole dream was to always have him give me away at my wedding. And that won't happen.
In less than 2 weeks, Perry is supposed to be getting married in warm Punta Cana. But last week, Sunwing Airlines announced it would be canceling all flights out of Saskatoon and Regina until February 3rd.
They're not giving any options.
She says the couple spent $8,000 to accommodate everyone. But with a list of 25 guests and a few already forced to cancel, she worries more people won't be able to make it. In a statement, Sunwing says, "We are astutely aware for too many Canadians we failed to live up to that promise this holiday season. We are incredibly sorry for letting our customers down." The airline cites, quote, "clear failures in responding to weather-related delays, limiting its ability to move around staff to tackle the backlog."
I will never go with Sunwing ever again, just based on the pure lack of communication.
Hundreds of travelers were left stranded last month. Missing baggage and canceled flights plagued the company. In the meantime, the airline says it's working on refunds for affected passengers.
I want to make sure that not only Sunwing and other airlines have their proper plans, but I want to make sure that our system has learned from these lessons and is able to improve and adjust based on those lessons to protect the rights of our passengers.
He says it's up to the Canadian Transportation Agency to open an investigation and press fines. But Perry says she's still hopeful to have her special day.
All of the dark stuff that we've all gone through the last few years, it should be that, that silver light at the end. And
Sarah Jabakanji, CBC News, Toronto.
An update to a story we first brought you late last year, I should say. A personal support worker who was facing deportation has won her fight to stay in Canada.
I'm so thankful to them because they've been so many have fought for me. Many have signed a petition to stop my deportation. I'm just going to do my best, work so hard to give my daughter a better life because I want to see her in a good life.
Fatima Nujama went public with her story in December. She worked the front lines during the pandemic after she fled Uganda. Her 3-year-old daughter was born in Canada. On Friday, she received word that her permanent resident application was granted. While her fight is over, she says she's still concerned about others facing deportation and that systematic change is needed. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada told CBC Toronto that work remains underway but could not comment on programs or policies under development. Kabir Bagaria is with us tonight wearing the best jacket I think that I've ever seen. And I'm so happy because I was going to complain about no sunshine, but then you kind of brought sunshine with your amazing fashion.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Shannon. Well, interestingly enough, that is in the forecast. We're going to talk a bit about it. But I am also going to go ahead and say that we have a little bit more sunshine coming up for the next 7 days. So
good.
Let's go ahead and get on into it. First of all, folks, we're not looking at very much active weather. And as Shannon mentioned, more sunshine is going to be coming. We've been craving it. And that's going to be, of course, that we're going to see a bit of that cloud cover, but we're not going to see as much rain as we have been seeing over the last little while. Now, the last time that we actually even saw a nicer sunny day was on the 21st back in 2022, so long ago, back well over about 14 days ago. And then going into our mix and sun and cloud, going into our Sunday and Monday, that means that we are going to be seeing some of those nicer sunny skies coming our way. Your overnight temperature sitting into the minuses, expecting, of course, your day for tomorrow to sit around -8 or so through the overnight period.
Okay, thanks, Kabir. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Take a look around any neighborhood in the GTA and you'll likely see some construction, yet that industry has a massive labor shortage. As Ali Chiasson shows us, the Canadian government hopes to solve the problem by paving the way for more women and diverse groups.
Not a lot of employers will hire women. Not a lot of employers will hire you if they see there's a car seat in your car.
That's been Camille Grace Radovan's experience so far. Despite being capable, she's been passed over for jobs in the trades.
Oh, I don't want to hire women because they might be like this. But if they see a woman actually working, I hope that kind of breaks down some of the barriers for women to be in the skilled trades.
Well, that's exactly what Radovan is doing. She's 2 months into her carpenter apprenticeship, and she's helping break down barriers while building critical infrastructure.
Makes me proud to say I'm helping build this. I can tell my friends, my family, my kids, I helped build that thing, and it's a fruit of my labor.
Radovan is one of the first apprentices to come through the new government-funded program, designed to hire more women, people of color, Indigenous, LGBTQ folks, and give them a lift towards the trades.
The construction industry has typically been a male-dominated industry. We wanted our program to help eliminate barriers and provide equitable, diverse, and inclusive workplaces. Currently, only 7% of the skilled trade workforce is made up of persons from equity-deserving groups. Only 7%. It's pretty low.
So here's the pitch.
You don't have to worry about what you don't know beforehand. 90% of your training will be on-site, while 10% is in a classroom. I don't think it gets any better than that. Not only you're gonna earn while you learn, you're not gonna leave school and have thousands of dollars in debt.
As someone who forged their way into a leadership position with the Carpenters Union, Ulysses Joe says the uptake in this program has been really encouraging.
It makes my heart sing just walking in the classroom, seeing those women sitting there, right? Because I never ever thought I'd be walking into a classroom filled with simply just women.
The diversity in the classrooms will soon be reflected on job sites for future projects that everyone can be proud of, just like Radovan, since she found her calling, carpentry.
Helping build all these structures, you're helping your community grow.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are wearing special new warm-up jerseys tonight as part of the Leafs' Indigenous celebration, all designed by a 23-year-old Anishinaabe artist.
I took inspiration from my culture, the Ojibwe people, Anishinaabe. Thunderbird represents like strength and being able to talk to the creator in a good way and create and share your beauty with the world and always be kind.
The artist, Tyler Rushnall, that's him there. The team will wear the jerseys ahead of their game against the Red Wings. Tonight's Indigenous celebration game will also have live music, dance performances, and some Indigenous fusion cuisine like bison poutine and smoked maple sage drumsticks. The jerseys will be up for auction through Real Sports, with all of the proceeds being donated to the Toronto Council Fire Native Cultural Centre. Limited edition t-shirts, hats, and hoodies, well, they sold out online very quickly today. Kabir is back with sunshine finally. I've been complaining and saying, how long has it been? And now we know. I can't believe, like 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks, Shannon, but I have to ask you, since we're on the topic of sunshine, all right, why is the sun so easy to carry?
Oh, I never know the answers to these.
That's good, because it gives me the opportunity to tell you. Well, because it's really light.
Oh, okay.
That was painful. All right, okay. I'll stick to the weather, folks. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the sunshine we're going to be seeing, and that is going to be continuing into the beginning of our week, folks. And we're not going to be seeing very much moisture in our forecast, as you can see. Relative high pressure is going to be keeping us relatively nice and sunny, with a mix of sun and cloud going into the beginning of the week. Our overnight temperatures are going to be relatively cool, sitting below the minuses, so we are going to be cooler feeling than we have been over the last couple of weeks, sitting at -3 for this evening, dipping down to -8 for the overnight for the city of Toronto, -10 for Barrie, of course. And if we take a look around Sudbury and, of course, the shores of Georgian Bay, it's going to feel more like -20 there with the wind chill. So definitely be aware of that. Ottawa sitting at -14. As we go ahead now and talk a bit about our Sunday, we are looking relatively warmer, but look at this. The sunshine, I always want to call them emojis. They are not, they are icons. The sunshine, of course, icon there, giving us a little bit of hope. In fact, a nice sunny day for Ottawa there. Windsor and Sarnia joining us in that sunshine. Over the next 7 days, we're looking at the potential for a little bit of snow going into our Tuesday, just a light dusting, really. And of course, as we go forward into next week, we are going to be sitting below the freezing mark for your lows. However, we will end up seeing a little bit nicer weather going forward. Barrie's very similar, and I always like to give this as a bit of an indicator just because it's on the shores there of Georgian Bay. So again, cooler temperatures coming your way. Hopefully that's going to help the snowpack if we are going out for a nice ski over the next few days for this week. Sunshine for your Sunday and your Monday.
Never apologize for cracking jokes. We love it. It's just I break into a sweat because I feel like I should know the answers because it's so obvious. But
oh, that's okay. Next time, I'm going to keep you on your toes, though.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Kabir. Have a great night. That is our show for you. Thanks for watching. Before we go, though, we want to have a final look at the Cavalcade of Lights. Toronto City Hall holiday festivities have been on since November. It's about to all wrap up, so here's one last look. We'll see you tomorrow.